the Spyderco Shaman. With its contoured handles, full four-fingered grip, thick blade stock, and substantial leaf-shaped blade, the Shaman has a reputation as being a knife that is up to hard-to-use tasks. And when Blade HQ came out with this exclusive version a few years ago in CPM M4, I jumped right on it and bought it and put it to work. This is a user for me. It's smeared with grease right now because I try to keep it from rusting. CPM M4 has really good edge retention, but it's not the toughest steel. It is a tough steel, but there are certainly some tougher steels out there. And the Shaman is a knife that Spyderco has produced in lots of different steels. Here is a version of it in Z-wear, which has properties kind of like crew wear. This version I picked up from the Texas State Surplus store. Somebody unfortunately forgot that they were carrying this knife and tried to go through an airport security line with it and had to surrender it, and it ended up at this Texas State Surplus store where I bought it. It does have some patina on it and doesn't have the smoothest action. I could probably adjust that pivot and get a little bit better action out of it, but that was an option that appealed to some people. The Z-wear steel, which neither of these, M4 or Z-wear, is stainless. There have been some stainless steels offered. I mean, the original Shaman was in CPM S90v. I never had just the plain Jane S90v Shaman, but I do have this LMAX Shaman, which was a exclusive for Blade Ops, if I remember correctly, with these gray G10 handles. And now that there is a CPM 15V Shaman, that probably wins for the most appropriate steel for a Shaman. That's going to have good edge retention and good toughness. And it's not stainless, but I have a number of 15V blades, and I haven't really had much issue with rust on the ones that I use. This Shaman was available relatively briefly as a sprint run. They sold out, they're long gone, and it looks like there might be very limited availability in the future of CPM 15V with Crucible's reorganization under new ownership. But there are lots of other Shamans out there. This arrived today from Knife Center, and this box gives me some concern. It looks kind of greasy. I don't know what. Maybe it's got packaged next to something real messy and rode on a UPS truck next to some pizzas or something. It does not look great, but hopefully the box did its job and protected the contents. I'm going to open it up with the 15V PM2. Okay, and there's 3 knives in here. These first 2 are Knife Center's exclusive version of the Shaman with brown burlap micarta handle scales and an s90v blade. If you want to pause this and read the literature that came with it, you can do that. The first paragraph there is explaining what an exclusive is, and then the next paragraph is explaining what S90V is, and then it tells us about this handle and the design of the knife in general, the compression lock, all that stuff. All right, so this is an exclusive for Knife Center. part of the reason that I ordered 2 of these is that in the past there was a quality control issue with this knife in particular, Spyderco's Exclusive Shaman in s90v. And I kind of thought if I order 2 of them, at least one of them will be in pretty good shape. But they have since come out and said that, you know, they realized there was an issue with a previous batch, and so they were extra careful. And Spyderco went over everything, got rid of anything that had any even minor quality control issues. And these, you know, on first glance, they look pretty good to me. Well, the blade grind is a little weird at the tip on both of them. It's interesting, right? Because it doesn't look the same on both sides. Huh. Well, let me know in the comments if you think that grind is a problem. With exclusives, you know, a lot of these big knife retailers kind of claim a steel as their thing, right? So like Cutlery Shop, their thing is CTS XHP. And so they've got a whole bunch of Spyderco exclusives that have come out over the years in CTS XHP. And Blade HQ has done a whole bunch of Spyderco exclusives in CPM M4. And Knife Center has done a number of knives with burlap, micarta handles, and s90v blades. And the thing about that is, s90v is a great steel, CPM M4 is a great steel, but they're great in different ways and for different applications. And so what is a great choice of steel for one type of knife may not be a great choice of steel for a different model of knife that has a different use, right? So for example, this is the Knife Center exclusive Spyderco Capara with an s90v blade and burlap micarta handles. This is a very different blade than the blade of the Shaman. The Shaman is a much thicker blade at the spine, and it is not a full flat grind. It's a high flat grind, but the Capara is a full flat grind. And this is more of a slicer. This is a knife that I think of as appropriate for EDC. It's going to be good at opening boxes and things like that. Just common everyday tasks. And so s90v is going to be a good steel for that because it's going to keep an edge for a long time. It's not going to need maintenance every day. So you can keep carrying this thing from day to day and use it once in a while and not have to worry about getting dull. S90v is also pretty stainless, so without needing to do a lot of maintenance, you're going to have a knife that looks good and works well and stays sharp. The Shaman is less of an EDC knife, to my thinking, and more of a hard use knife that, you know, if I was going camping, I might carry something like this, or if I was going to do a particularly laborious day of work outside, I might take this with me. And yeah, s90v is going to stay sharp pretty well, and that's good. And yeah, it doesn't rust, that's good. But s90v is not as tough as some of these other options, like 15V and Z-Wear. Those might be more appropriate steels for this blade profile. That's one way of thinking about it. The other way of thinking about it is, well, yeah, s90v is not that tough, but the blade on this thing is so thick that it doesn't really matter. You're not going to snap this blade. It doesn't really matter what steel it is. If it's that thick, it's not going to break. Well, no, you're not going to snap off the blade, probably. Could break the tip, possibly. But you could get, you know, little chips in this blade, which you might avoid if you were using a tougher steel. So I don't think that s90v is as appropriate for the Shaman as it is for the Capara. Interestingly, the burlap micarta, even though these are both Spyderco knives, looks quite a bit different on these. And that's not too surprising, even though they're both Spydercos, because the Shaman is made in Golden, Colorado, and the Capara is made in Taichung, Taiwan. And I bet they sourced their micarta from totally different places. Interesting. Okay, well, we've got one more thing in this package. There's one other knife that I picked up while I was on the Knife Center website, and it's this Ontario Carter Prime. And it is a beefy thing. Full titanium handles, milled titanium pocket clip, frame lock, D2 blade, kind of a sheep's foot profile. This is made in Taiwan. I bought this on a significant discount as one of Knife Center's National Knife Day sale items that was marked down. It was $39.95 for that. So that's a 3.3-inch D2 blade with titanium handles. It's a frame lock flipper for just under 40 bucks, which is a pretty good deal. And part of the reason I picked this up is because I had just done a video on this HX Outdoors Rock Sapphire model, which also has a D2 blade and titanium handles, and came in at $29.99 on sale. And I made the comment on that video that that's the best price you're going to find on titanium and D2. And I think it still is, even though this Ontario gets close, but it's $10 more. It's also a bit more knife. We've got the sort of black wash finish on the Ontario, and it's a frame lock instead of a liner lock. So it's not quite an apples to apples comparison, but it's cool that titanium and D2 are becoming materials that we're seeing in budget knives now. I'm not going to go into size comparisons on the Shaman and all that because I've done previous videos on the Shaman, and it's a pretty familiar knife model to a lot of you. If you're watching knife videos, you've probably seen a walkthrough of the Shaman. I just wanted to talk about steel options mainly, and whether or not s90v was a good choice for a Shaman. Let me know what you think. Which steel would you choose for a knife that's intended for hard use? If you want to see more knife videos, subscribe to my channel. I'll keep them coming. Thanks. Bye.